Okay. So once we install Secure Agent and once we open with the link which we received in the email, okay, then we should log in with our username and password. So what we have used at the time of account creation. Okay. So once we log in, so then we'll be opening with this pop-up. Okay. So here, so as I mentioned in the previous session, we will be having data integration, administrator, monitor. So these are the three tools that we are going to use it here. Okay. Now, so first thing is administrator. First, we should go because whenever we administrator, also let us first open data integration in a new worksheet. Okay, so we can open multiple worksheets in one, multiple tabs. In one tab, we can connect with administrator. In the other tab, we can connect with data integration. So in data integration, where we will be having projects. So first thing what we have to make sure is, so whether the project what we have to work for is created or not. So that is the first criteria, or that is the first thing that we will have to verify. Okay. So now if you don't have any project, then we need to ask our team members or team lead stating that this project is not created. Can you please help us to create the project? Because creation of project is an admin activity. IICS admins will be there. So those will be they will be taking care of this admin activities. Okay. Now, as soon as we open the data integration tab, like we'll be having this page. In real time also, we'll be having exact same page only. Then click on explore. Once you click on this explore, where you will be having default project. Default project. This we will call it as a project. So for every project where we'll be having separate folder here. Okay. Now in our local machine first, I will have to create a project. Okay. Now I have created a project called SLK 18. Okay. So this project I have created. So we need to make sure that the project is created. Okay, inside that, so we need to ask our team members whether do we need to have all of them in a separate folder or we can create directly here. If at all they say that, let's say we have dimension loads or staging loads or fact loads, so usually we'll be creating separate folders for staging mapping, separate folders for dimensions, separate for fact tables, like that. Okay, so because if you see in the projects, right, where we'll be having hundreds of mappings, so in the hundreds of mappings it will be very difficult for us to identify which is present where, which mapping is present under which folder or under which place. So in order to identify easily, so we will have to create a separate folder. Okay, so this is how, so we are going to create a folder. So I'm just creating a folder called training. Okay, so how do we create a folder? We have a create folder option. As soon as we enter inside the project, where we can create a folder. Once the folder is created, so then let us go to administrator. Now we will have to create the connection. So in order to create the connection, so in the administrator should go to connections tab. So when you click on this connections tab, we'll be opening with the connection section. So in the connection section, so first thing what we should do is we need to ask our team members whether the relevant connection is already created or not. If it is created, we need to search it here. If it is not created, then we need to click on this new connection. Once we click on this new connection, then we will have to give the connection name. So connection name should be certain standards that we will have to follow. Okay, for which project that we are creating, underscore, what is the source connection that we are going to create, like what database. Let's say I am creating for Oracle. So for Oracle connection. So to which, so this is what type of database that we are creating and what is the database name. I'm creating for SLK. Sorry, I'll create for system user. Okay. So with this, we'll get to know this Oracle connection is created for which database. Okay. Now in this, oh my God. should go to Connections tab. So click on New Connection. In the connection name, give project name underscore which type of connection that we are creating. It's an Oracle connection, so it will be a naming standard ORA or a underscore which schema that we are connecting. See, this is not a mandatory thing, but usually in real time we are going to follow certain standards. As per the standard, we will have to follow this. Okay, so then click on click on this drop down to select Oracle. So because now I wanted to connect to Oracle database. Okay, now let me also open Oracle Skill Developer in the meantime. Okay, now username. So we should give the username. I'm giving system password as admin. See here, there is no hard rule that we should select the same username. Okay, select the runtime environment, then select the host. See, when we are practicing, the host name is localhost. Okay, when we are practicing, the host name is localhost, port is 1521, service name XC. So when we are practicing it, so these are the details. But when we go to real time, okay, when we go to real time, where we should get this information, the username, password, host, port, service name, all this information from our team members.
So here password, Bhaskar, password used is for the system password or Oracle password? What?
This is Oracle, like the system in the sense this is a system user which we have it in Oracle database.
Okay. So this is the password means the connectivity for Oracle related. Okay. Means password for Oracle.
Database.
Okay.
Password for Oracle database, and the username also we can give any username. Like so we will be creating users in the Oracle database, right? Let's say I have created another user called SLK18. I can use that username password also here. Okay, I'll show you in that also. I don't have connection for system. Let me create a new connection.
Bhaskar, we have a HR schema now. You can use as HR schema.
Yeah, any schema that we can use it as long as we know the password.
Yes, because HR we have lots of data, right?
Yeah, we can use HR dot. We can use the table. Okay, because system schema is having full privileges. Okay, so what I'll do. I'll create one employees table into our system schema, copying the data from HR schema. Okay, see, all you have to understand here is first you should give the credentials, then you should click on the test connection. Make sure the test connection should be successful. See, now the test connection is successful. Once the test connection is successful, then we should save this connection. Okay, without test connection successful, we should not save the connection. Okay, then close it. Now we have one connection which is being used to connect to system schema. Okay, now let me create one more connection for SLK18 schema. So here instead of system, because this user also I have created. So I'm selecting Oracle and runtime environment as our secure agent name. Username is SLK18. Password also. This is I have used localhost, and let's see. Now we should test the connection. Every time we should not directly save the connection. Okay, we should first test it, and we should make sure the test connection is successful. Every connection, be it Oracle or be it Flatfile or be it Salesforce or be it Snowflake or Postgres or any database. Okay, be it any database. First, we should make sure the test connection is successful. So then save it. Okay, so now this connection also I have created. Now I have one connection to connect to the system schema. The other connection is to connect SLK 18 schema. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just creating one table in system schema. Let's start from HR. Okay, now I have one employees table where select star from employees. I have many records in my employee table, right? Now this is my source table. Okay, in SLK 18 schema, let me create one target table. Create table employees underscore target as select start from where 1 equal to 2 because I just wanted only the structure. Okay, so now I have employees underscore target is my target table. Select start from. So I don't have any data here. Here I have the data. Okay, this is my source. So I have an employees table which is at my system schema. I have another table in SLK 18 schema. Okay, now the requirement is I have to use IICS to load the data from one schema to another schema. So usually in real time, where we will be having different databases from one database to another database. So all we wanted to understand here is, so for source where we should have one connection, for target where we should have one connection. So the source table should be present in our source database and target table should be present in our target database. Now should go to explore. Sorry, you should go to data integration. So in I have created a project SLK 18. So for you also, you can create this project when you go to this explore. So then you can go inside of this training folder because this is folder also I have created. Now how do we create a new mapping? Once we have the connections ready, then we should click on this new. Once we click on this new, click on mappings. Once we click on this mappings, select the mapping tab, then click on create. Now mappings will be created. So in IICS, so the common things that what we will have to do is, first thing is we have to create a mapping, then we have to create a mapping task on top of the mapping that we created, and then we will have to create a task flow. So task flow is a place, task flow is a object which is going to be used to execute the jobs, to execute the mapping task with certain conditions. Okay, so out of that, the first step is creating a mapping. Okay, so mapping is a place where will be having the entire code, entire IICS code will be resides under a mapping. Okay, now as I mentioned, so we will have to create this mapping. So now we have to create the mapping name. M underscore is the naming standard that we will have to follow. M underscore project name. So this mapping is created for SLK 18 project. So in this project, I wanted to load employees underscore target table. So what is the target table name? That we will have to keep it. Okay. Now, once you are doing that, then click on enter. Okay. Once you click on this enter, then click on the source tab. So in real time, as I mentioned, right, So the same source and targets will be there. Okay, if you wanted to see only the mapping flow, then we have to use this button to minimize it. And if you wanted to see both mapping and the relevant properties at one shot, you have to select the middle one. And in the last one, so when we wanted to see all the properties in the maximized way, where we have to select the last one so that we can see the complete properties window. Okay, now I selected the source and I maximized it. Then click on source tab. So we'll be having a source tab. So in the source tab, where we have to select the connection. What is our source connection here? SLK18 underscore Raquel system schema is my source. So now first we have to select the relevant connection name. So then when you select the source type, where you can see 4 options. Option 1 is single object. Option 2 is multiple objects. Option 3 is query. Option 4 is a parameter. Okay. Option 1 is when we are going to read the data from only one table, then we will have to select the single object. When we wanted to read the data from multiple tables, then we will have to use multiple objects. So when we are going to, the first thing is, let us select the single object. Now I wanted to read the data from only one table. Now when we select the source type as single object, then click on this object name. We have to select the source object. What is the object that we wanted to use it as a source? Then for that we have to click on that select.
So Bhaskar, sorry to interrupt. So here 4th thing is there. One is the single object, multiple object, and
Query
source
and parameter.
query. So query means this is the source query, you say, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'll explain other properties also. So for now, I just selected only the single object. Then I'm selecting the object name. So there, right, in our database where we'll be having hundreds of tables, it will be very difficult for us to identify the right table. Now click on use the full table name in the search bar here. Click on search. Then we will get the direct table. Then click on OK. Once you click on OK, once you click on OK, the object will be coming here. Then if you select the fields tab, where you can see all the list of fields, which are the fields which are present in the source table. You can get all the list of fields from the source table. Then when you expand this query options, where you have an option to put a filter, you have an option to put sorter, like if you wanted to sort any data from source, or if you wanted to put any filter, you can use this filter option. Then we do also have an advanced. So we do have pre-SQL and post-SQL. Okay, so pre-SQL is nothing but, so whenever we are going to use any table here, okay, so the runtime environment, what it is going to do, so which is going to prepare an SQL statement, because Oracle database is going to understand only the SQL queries. Okay, so Oracle database always, it will be expecting an SQL query. So when any SQL query is issued to the database, the Oracle database will understand the query and it will give us the result. So before the SQL query is going to hit the database, if you wanted to execute anything, we can create, then we can use pre-SQL. Pre-SQL, what we can keep any SQL statement here. This SQL statement will work only when, so this SQL statement will work before the source qualifier or before the source query is going to execute. Okay, there are certain scenarios, like when we are going to use, how we are going to use this pre-SQLs and post-SQLs. I'll explain later, but for now, just try to understand in source under advanced, where we have this option called pre-SQL, and we do have option of post-SQL. Okay, so this query override. So this query override is going to work only when we select this query option. So in the source type, when we select the query option, so then if at all we wanted to override that, then we will have to use the SQL override. If at all we wanted to schema name and the table name, okay, So for the connection, if at all it is parameterized, okay, if the connection is parameterized, then if at all we wanted to pass the schema name or table name, we have an option to pass the schema name table name here. Okay, because in a database where we have multiple schemas and multiple tables, so if you wanted to pass the schema name and table name and the source connection is parameterized, then we will have to use these options. Otherwise, we can select these options. Okay, in the source type also, if you select the parameter, either we can keep the parameter object name here, or we can keep the schema name and the relevant table name that we can keep it here. Okay, for now, let us forget about advanced options. So let us only focus on details and query options, these two only. Okay, so now I have selected a source object. Okay, so this is the source object where I have the source data, and this is having this many columns. Now go to target, click on target. The target, so we have an option of incoming fields. Okay, in the incoming fields, so we will get to know which are the fields that are coming from source. Source are the previous transformation. Okay, so these are all the incoming fields, so which are coming from source. Okay, so then click on target. In the target, again we should select the target connection. Now I wanted to load the data into this SLK18 schema table. The table is present in my target table is present in this schema. Now target type also either single object or parameter. Now let me select the single object. Now click on this select option to select the table name. So employees underscore TGT is my table under SLK18 schema. Now this is my target table where I wanted to load the data. Now there are several options here. Okay, insert, update, delete, and upset. Okay, so these are the four options that we are going to use it in real time. And data driven will be used only if we are going to use certain transformations like update strategy. Anyway, it is not there here. And so with that transformation where we can send the insert, update, delete flags. Okay, so let us forget about this data driven option here. So just focus only on insert, update, delete, or offset. These are the four options that we are going to use it in real time. Okay, out of that, the first option is insert. So insert is going to do only insertion, update is going to do only update, delete is going to do only delete, and offset is going to do update or insert, or update else insert. Okay, if record which is coming from source is already exist in the target table, then it will update it. If record coming from source does not exist in the target table, it will insert it. So offset is going to be used for update insert option. Okay, now for now, so since it is the first mapping, I'm just selecting only the insert option. So here truncate target option is there, enable bulk load option is there. So truncate target option, when we enable it, so every time when we are going to execute this mapping, it will truncate the data, existing data, and reload it. This truncate target option, which is going to truncate the data which is coming from source every time, like, which is already present in the target table. Every time it will reload it. This enable target bulk load option. So this will be enabled only when if source is having huge volume and the mapping is taking much time. So in order to improve the performance of a mapping, we can enable this bulk load option, and we need to make sure there should not be any primary keys. Okay, so this bulk load option is for performance improvement.
So Bhaskar, so in the time of project testing, so when developer says that this is a truncate load, it means we have to select this truncate target, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so there are several ways to do that. So either we can enable truncate table option here, or for target also where we have the pre-SQL and post-SQL and update override options. Okay, so in the pre-SQL we can write a delete statement. Okay, so this pre-SQL is going to execute before the first record is going to hit the target definition. Before the first record is going to hit the target definition, this pre-SQL is going to do. Okay, if you enable truncate table option, the integration service will automatically understand I wanted to delete the existing data and reload it. Okay, so option 1 is to enable the truncate target option. Option 2 is write a delete statement here. Okay, so now I have enabled truncate table option, and for now I'm not enabling this bulk load option. Bulk load option is only for performance improvement where our mapping is 1-to-1, which does not have any transformation logics or nothing. Okay, so the moment we select the target table, the operation is inside truncate table option, then go to target fields. So the fields will be automatically coming up. So from the table, whatever the object, so from this object, which all the columns are there, all the columns will be coming here. The next is field mapping. Now field mapping is a tab where we will have to map. So which field should connect to which field. So now I wanted to connect the source to target mapping that we are going to do it here. Which source field should map to which target field. So this we will getting in a requirement document. I think if you remember I have shown one Excel document, mapping requirement document, where we are going to see which source table that we will have to connect to the which target table. Sorry, which source column should connect to the which target column. Okay, if both source and targets are having same structure, then we have a field map options. So in the field map options, when you enable automatic, so all the relevant fields will be get automatically connected. But we cannot select any, we cannot drag and drop any fields if names are not matching. Okay, so for now, let us keep it manual. And here in the auto map, select exact field name. So here in the auto map, select the exact field name or smart map. So either these two that we will have to use it. The smart map is basically if we are going to have O_ some relevant name, like IICS also will be able to understand. So this is kind of a relevant name that I can map it. So we need to make sure all the target columns are mapped to the relevant source columns. So this is we will have to make sure, and then click on save it. I have created a mapping which is saved, and we need to make sure mapping should be valid. Okay, if at all we have any doubt, we have a validation panel here. So select the validation panel. If at all there is any errors, mapping is invalid. Now you wanted to see what is the error, then you have to click on this invalid validation. When you select the validation, so validation panel will be coming here. So okay, if at all there is any error, we can see the errors in the validation panel. Okay, now my mapping is valid. So now when we have the mapping, so we have an option to execute the mapping itself. Okay, so we don't need to create a mapping task when we wanted to test our mapping. But in real time, we need to have mapping task to be created because there are certain options that will be there only in the mapping task, like parameter file creation, parameter file path given. So these kind of options are there in the mapping task. Okay, so and one more thing is in the task flow, we can connect only the mapping task. We cannot connect the mapping. So that is the reason we should create the mapping task once we create any mapping. Click on new. Click, the first option is task. So in the task, select the first one, mapping task. Then click on create. Okay. Now always the mapping task name should be empty_mapping name. So this is the naming standard that we will have to follow. Empty_mapping name. We need to select the right location and select the runtime environment as proper runtime environment, and then select the mapping. For this mapping task is being created for which mapping? Select the right mapping here. We need to make sure mapping name and mapping task name should be same. So we should create the right mapping. Click on next. So if at all any options that we will have to do, like if at all we wanted to schedule, or if at all we wanted to send any email notifications, if at all we wanted to give any parameter files here, we can select these options. Okay, if at all we wanted to improve query options, mapping options, so then we need to select the optimization. Okay, push down optimization. If at all we wanted to improve the performance of this mapping, then we can go for optimization types. Okay, then click on save. Okay, now I have created a mapping. Then go to explore, and if we go to our folder, we'll be able to see mapping name and mapping task name. Okay, now let me execute this mapping task. So executing this mapping task, just select the left hand side here, click on run option. You can select it. Now click on my jobs. So either we can select my jobs here, or in the left side navigation panel also, where we have my jobs option. When you select this my jobs, there you'll be able to see what all the jobs which are executing. Just refresh it. Okay, just keep refreshing it, where you will see the status of it. Is succeeded or failure, that we will understand. Now the status is success. Okay, so how many rows processed? 107 rows processed. Now let me see. Select star from employees underscore target. See, all the data is being loaded. The records are there in the source table. Once after we load the data, then we will have to verify whether the source data and target data is properly loaded or not. How many records are there in the source table? 107. In the target also we have 107. So same number of data is loaded. Okay. So once data is properly loaded, then we will have to do proper validation. Source to target validation, that we will have to do it. Okay. So how are we going to do that? That I'll explain later. So for now, so this is how we are going to create the mapping, configure the source, configure the target, do the field mapping, and select the relevant connections, and create the mapping task, run the mapping task. Any questions? Anyone having any questions here?
So Bhaskar, just as mapping task. Whatever the things that we have created in mapping, just that all things will be appended in the mapping task, right?
Because in the general where we are selecting the mapping, so this mapping task is created for which mapping?
Okay, we can run the task flow in the mapping itself. Now, why we are creating a mapping task, one more mapping task?
Because in the runtime options, if at all we wanted to give any parameter file, if at all we are passing any manual parameters, so we can select the parameter path and parameter file name here. Okay, and if at all we wanted to schedule any mapping task, we can schedule it. If at all we wanted to send any email notification, like for this like on failure notification, on warning email notification, or on success email notification, if at all we wanted to send. So there are certain options here. Okay, if at all we wanted to use these options, we need the mapping task. Also, when we are going to create a task flow, we cannot directly select the mapping. We need to select the mapping task only. Okay, so that's why mapping task is mandatory.
Okay. While creating a task flow, we don't have an option to select the mapping task.
The mapping.
We have only
mapping task.
Okay, got it, Bhaskar. And can you please go to the mapping task? So in that we have two check columns. The above we have told validation, na? Mapping, the above one. This is mapping task. So we have a validation part, right?
Which validation?
Bhaskar, the first one, Bhaskar, not the second one. We are in the mapping task, the first one, map task.
Finger. This one?
That is the one. So here we have three checkbox, right? So the above validation, one more two check columns are there. What is that?
This is for validation. Okay,
Okay.
this is for parameters. If at all we wanted to pass any input output parameters, okay, if you wanted to pass any values externally from a file, okay, then we are going to create these input output parameters, like table name we are parameterizing, or any variable values that we are passing, any hard coded values that we are passing, or any connection name that we can parameter. There are certain options where we can do the parameterization. If at all we wanted to do parameterization, So we have to select out this option where we can create these input parameters or input parameters. Okay, so this is to ELT query. Okay, so this option we don't use it. Okay, so basically this is going to create an SQL. So this is for the optimization part. Okay, what the optimization basically, like, mapping is taking too much time. Okay, so we have a push down optimization concept. Okay, so this, when we wanted to implement the push down optimization, so then we will have to use this ELT query option. Okay, so how this is going to generate the queries. Okay, all those concepts will come in later.
Okay.
For now, let us not worry about that. So let us, since it is the first mapping, right? So basically, just you don't need to worry about all these things. So you just try to create a mapping and try to understand only about the validation panel. See, this validation panel is required if at all the mapping says invalid. And what is the error that we wanted to identify? So let's say I'm going to let me map all these fields. Okay, now I unmapped all the fields, but I saved it because without doing a field mapping, I saved the mapping. Now the mapping it is showing invalid. Why it is invalid? Invalid at which place where the error is there? Under the target. So when you expand, it is showing field mapping must contain at least one mapping field. So here in the target where I don't have any map fields, now at least one map field should be there. I just mapped it and said either we can do manually drag and drop here, or we can select this auto map, or we can select smart map, or we can select manually. However, see now the mapping is valid. Sure, we should make sure our mapping should be valid state.
Okay. So here we have a 11 column, right? So any one of the column is mapped. Now that's fine, right? Or we have to map all 11.
To make the mapping succeeded, at least one mapped field should be enough. Okay, but in real time, it is not advisable. It is not at all advisable. We should exactly map to the right fields. If we are mismatching the fields, then the data will not load properly. So we need to be very much careful about which field we are mapping to which target field, which source field that we are mapping to which target field. That is very, very important activity that we are going to do with this field mapping. And even right when we are testing it, we don't need even mapping task. We can directly run this. We can directly run the mapping also. But where select the runtime environment, just run it. So we can directly run the mapping also for our testing purpose. One zero seven records are loaded. 7 records. 107 records came from source. 107 records loaded into the target table. And in the mapping, we have selected truncate table option for target. So every time it will be truncating and reloading it. Now what I'm going to do, let me remove this truncate table option. Let me see how many records are there in the target table now. 107. Now what I did was I disabled this truncate table. I did not enable this truncate table option. I saved it. Now I'm running it. Let us see what is going to happen. Go to my jobs, where we can see the status of this mapping. Just refresh this. Now let me execute this query. Select star from truncate, select star from employees underscore target. How many records are there? 214 records are there. 107 plus 107. Already 107 records are already there. Again 107 records got loaded. So 214 records got loaded into the target table.
Duplicate record has been loaded, right?
Obviously, duplicate data will be loaded.
Up and up.
Okay,
So-
duplicate data will be get loaded. But because the truncate table option I did not enable, so that will be keep inserting the data. So this is the use case of
Shall we go with update and insert concept or?
that will come later.
Okay, then fine.
It's not the time to go with update insert concept. So now you just need to understand, okay, what is source, what is the target, how you have to select, how you have to use the source, and how you have to use the target. Okay, so what are the different properties that will be there? The different properties will be there for target. So this is how we are going to select the source, and this is how we are going to select the target, and we are going to load the data. Okay, so this is one sample mapping that we can create using IICS. So in between that, see every mapping will be having source and target only. In between that, as per the different transformation logics, where we'll be having different expressions, so different transformations. So hardly we have around 10 to 12 transformations that we have: a creator, expression, filter, joiner, lookup, maplet, normalizer, rank, router, sequence, sorter, SQL. So there are certain transformation, transaction control, union. So there are certain transformations that we have. We are going to use the transformations between source and target. Okay, so in this entire IICS mappings that we are going to create like this only. Okay, every mapping where like every code is nothing but a mapping. For every mapping where we'll be having a source and target. In between that, as per the business logic, we are going to use the respective transformations. So which transformations are going to be used to load this particular table set. Any questions? Anyone having any questions here?
No.
No, Bhaskar. No, Bhaskar.
Fine.